Scars of the Golden Dancer is a novel by Night Eyes Dayspring, one I'd always intended to read but only now got the chance. Set in the desert, our story takes place in the Sultanate of a desert nation. The two protagonists are Zane, a jackal with scars who searches for a better life, and Naji, a hyena caravan guard and protector who runs from a complicated past. When they meet in a remote caravanserai, their encounter starts them on a journey towards the city of Aksu. I really love how well the author has introduced both of his main characters, with a clear view of each of their lives when we first meet them, and the worldviews of both. Their personalities are distinct and interesting, with each adding to the flavor of the story. I rather enjoy Zane's discovery of the world outside his little square of the desert, and the chemistry between the two. Naji travels to a caravanserai on his way back to Aksu. When he arrives, he purchases the company of a jackal dancer. After discovering his circumstances, he offers to take him to Aksu with him and show him a better life, and there, their journey begins. Overall, I'd have to say that this book started better than it ended. I'd like to begin by saying there was a lot about this story to like. The characterization was really strong, the alternating narrative worked well at showing who each character was, as well as adding their perspective to the story, and the setting was well detailed, providing a good feeling of what life in the desert and the surrounding areas is like. I liked both of the protagonists. They were very likable, different enough so that they provided an interesting contrast. I thought their personal histories were well thought out, and that they made a compatible couple when working together. The supporting characters were three-dimensional, with most of them adding something essential to the story. I thought the romance elements were well done, both the inclusion of Naji and Zane's romance, along with the harsher aspects of their lives. The flow of events, while adequate, seemed to slow way down once they got to Aksu, with most of the major events being something the main characters displayed little agency in how they were going about it. I felt there was not enough active participation in most of the story, with the two characters just sort of feeling their way along and reacting to things, rather than taking an active role in the narrative. I also felt that when Naji tells us his backstory, it should have been a flashback. Given how critical it is to his relationship to several of the other characters, I think it doesn't make as much of an impact hearing about it versus seeing it through Naji's eyes. One of my biggest issues personally with this book was the fact that most of the information and explanations were saved until the last two chapters of the story. I spent most of the book wondering where it was going, rather than feeling like I was being taken on a journey after they arrived in the city. But to say more, I'd have to put it behind a spoiler alert. I felt that the finale worked well enough to wrap things up, but I feel like events would have been better in a different order. I felt like the revelation of the stolen warfire was not set up well, with no mention of it earlier in the story or the conflict which encouraged its theft. I felt like the book would have been much stronger, paralleling Naji's efforts to uncover the truth behind the theft from the inside as the Aragvi tried to move it out of the city, while Zane worked to avoid the henchmen that Aziz had left behind. It also bothered me to some degree that the only reason Zane was at the bridge at the end of the book was because he just happened to be there. Narratively, it was just a simple way of getting him there, but he could have just as easily have been anywhere else, and the mere location of Fidel's shop and his wanting to wander over to see it didn't seem like it was a good enough reason to justify his being there at the finale of the book. Even though Zane is a newcomer to the city, I thought it warranted more than him just following the other characters around until he ended up where the conclusion needed him to be. While the logistics of his presence work out, I would have preferred a more satisfying way of getting him there. Lastly, I felt the mention of Sarda was extraneous at the end of the book. Now, it may have been set up for the sequel, but I feel that if you were going to tie Sarda to the theft of the Warfire, it would have been a shocking reveal to see him at the conclusion of the story. I think it would have forced Zane to confront his past, literally, and would have, along with Naji's investigation to search and stop the Warfire, would have been a much more fitting ending. Suggesting he was behind the events of the book without validating it with more than just a non-appearance mention feels like an opportunity was missed to make him the book's antagonist and not just a plot device at the beginning of Zane's past. In fact, you could have had him avoiding Sarda this entire book, and it perhaps would have added a layer of adrenaline to the story. I know that this was Night Eye's first book and that it took a significant development time, so overall let me close by saying that it was a good effort and a very readable book. Though it has its flaws, it's worth picking up and giving a read. If you like werewolves, check out my book Blue Moon, available in paperback and ebook on Amazon. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. Catch you later.